Charmaine and I are back, continuing on talking about the different signs of emotional abuse. And before we continue on with this particular topic today, we're going to talk about should you stay, should you leave, and if you leave, how to do so safely. How do you make that decision? I know that I just thought of there's a whole other topic on why people stay. So let's just not go there today. We're just going to talk about how to leave safely, because it's important that if you are in a situation where you just at that point where you know it's time to leave, we want to give you some resources and some tips on how you can do so safely. Now, when it comes to Charmaine, before I can ramble on forever. What would you like to say on this topic?
Just continue what you were saying, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. I think it's very important to be aware of your situation and not make excuses for your partner if your partner has abusive behavior. The one thing that is very common that people stay is it's not always bad. There are the good times. And it is those good times that often keep people stuck in these relationships. My word of advice, my first tip is to pay attention, because abuse comes in cycles. And when you start knowing what these signs are and you start recognizing them, you realize that there's more to life than being in an abusive relationship, and you're worth more. And you'll come to a point where hopefully you will realize that it's time to leave, but you may not know how to leave safely, depending on who your partner is and how they behave. So in a previous episode, we talked about know your abuser, like kind of anticipate, know how they push the buttons, know kind of their reactions, know what triggers them or what sets them off, so that you can protect yourself. Number one. Walking in eggshells is the biggest sign that you can have that your relationship is abusive. So if you have to walk on eggshells, if you have to, if you're not telling your partner something because they're going to react badly, or they're going to be yelling at you, if you have to hide things from your partner because they're going to react a certain way, those are signs that you're not in a good situation and that you need to leave, and you need to start putting things in place. Now, not every abuser is the same. There's different degrees of danger when we leave a relationship that is abusive. So it's very important to leave a relationship as safely as possible. And the first thing you need to do is you need to plan it. So unless you're just packing your stuff up, moving to another country and cutting off all connections, unless you're doing it that way, if you're feeling stuck, that you don't know how to leave, there are ways you can do it safely. And one of the first steps is to make your partner lose interest in you. And we talked about this in the previous episode where we talked about gray rocking. So not really giving a response. Now, if your partner is physically abusive, right now, I'm just going to tell you, call the domestic violence shelter and get guidance. I'm not going to say any more than that. Just let them give you advice based on your specific situation, because every situation is different. But if there's no physical abuse involved and it's all emotional, start with the gray rocking while you plan. Another thing you want to do is you want to have someone that you trust, that you can confide in the situation and explain what's going on. I know that in one of my relationships, although there had not been physical abuse per se, it was so bad that it got to the point where I was so worn down. I was so worn down by the mental games, the emotional abuse, all the plots and stuff, that I'd go to bed thinking I may not be alive the next day. I believed he was going to kill me in my sleep, even though he had never hit me before. And I found a relative that I called and I said, if I'm ever killed, if I'm ever found killed, just know that it is him. And then I made all the steps to, eventually I made the steps to leave. So have one person that you can talk to, that you trust. Listen to your friends and family. If they tell you that if they will give you protection, listen to them. If your family members or your friends don't like your partner and you know your partner is abusive, listen to your friends. They will help you. Do talk to if you can, talk to a professional, go to a counselor or a therapist and get some more insights on your situation, how are you feeling, how are you reacting, things that are happening at home, so that you have more ammunition on how to protect yourself mentally and emotionally and how to also leave safely. If you're not in a financially independent situation, that can be a big handicap, because that's another reason sometimes people end up being stuck in relationships. It's because they don't have the financial means. And that's another very common reason. It's like, I don't have enough money to be on my own. I don't have a job or whatever. It's lack of funds. So also requires a strategic plan on saving, putting a certain amount of money aside, finding a place to live, maybe even finding a job if you don't have a job, or finding ways to create more income, and all done secretly. So you don't want your abuser, that's also another thing, you don't tell your abuser you're leaving them because they will do everything they can to keep you in that relationship. So all of this planning goes behind their back. You have to do this secretly and safely. And that's why it's so important that you talk to the professionals, talk to a domestic violence shelter, someone who works there, talk to a therapist who is specialized in this topic. And if you do go, I actually saw something, I think it was yesterday on one of the groups, somebody was mentioning how they'd gone to a therapist for 6 months, and the therapist basically did nothing for them. Like, don't wait 6 months. Why are you waiting 6 months? If your therapist is not helping you, go to another one, a counselor, right? And if you can't find help anywhere, there are groups online that can help. Reach out to us here as well. We'll give you whatever resources we can to help you wherever you are in the world. So those are some of the things that, some of the tips that I like to give. I can share experience from my own personal experience. I've been through 2 divorces. I won't specify which one was which, but in one of the divorces, I had no financial access. So I literally saved pennies to be able to have enough, and it wasn't even enough to pay rent for 2 months somewhere else. And it was a struggle. It took me a long time to save $2,000, a long, long time. And then when I found a place I was looking for a place to live, rents are really expensive here. When I found something that was posted that was like, this can't be true, like this seems so reasonable price wise, I didn't have a job. And no one wants to give you, no one's going to rent to you if you don't have a job, right? And I had no references either, because I had lived in places that had been owned the whole time. So for at least where I was now. So I had no rent, no references from previous landlords, and no income, no proof of income. Well, this is what and I had a child. So the one thing I did, and I'm sharing this because I hope that someone, if you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, I just want you to know that there is a way out. Sometimes all you have to do is be truly honest with people. So when this ad came up for this place, because I was looking at the paper every day, at the time it was paper, not internet. What I did is I contacted the landlord. I went to look at the place and I told the landlord my situation. I explained exactly where I was at. I don't have references. I don't have a job. I'm in the middle of I'm in the middle of this situation. I'm looking for work. And I said, if I can't pay you, if you ever miss a month, you just kick me out. Just kick me out. That's the deal. If I can't pay you rent, I will leave. And he rented it to me. He had a whole bunch of other people he could have rented it to, but he said, okay. So don't be afraid to be honest and share your story. Now, I lucked out. That person said yes. He could have easily said no, but I probably would have done the same thing with the next until somebody would have said yes. So just because you may not have the financial resources to be locked in, or because you don't have proof, you don't have any evidence that of income, or that you're a good person to rent to, you're not stuck. You're not stuck. So that's my bit. Charmaine.
Since we started off with a red flag, I'm also going to add this. If you Google your partner's behavior, get out of that relationship ASAP. Because when you have to Google someone's behavior, that is your biggest indicator. That's your biggest red flag you're going to come across. So yes, that's another red flag that you need to look out for. Google. So as just like Francesca, I also had my life threatened, and it was verbal. He said if when the time came when he was asking for a divorce, and a little before that as well, um, he actually outright said that he could kill me and he could get rid of me and no one would know. And at that point, I knew I had to tell someone that if something happened to me, and I told people close to me who knew me, but he wouldn't have suspected the usual, like not my usual people. But I knew I had to tell someone. So I told them, this is my situation. And if anything happens to me, catch him. Go straight to the cops, catch him. And I was actually at a point where I was going to write letters and keep them with different people. And I had already told them that I was going to do this. And I said the letters are going to be opened if something happens to me, because those letters are going to have everything I've been going through. I own my place, but I there were days when there was nothing in my fridge except water, and I was filling my stomach with water. I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. I didn't even know if there was a next meal. But I knew that it was just a temporary situation, which was better for my mental health than to be with someone and get meals which were not at all happy. So sometimes you just got to look at the situation realistically. Now, for me, what I did is the day he started threatening to divorce, I started learning the divorce laws in my state. Now, my state has separate laws to the rest of the country. So I live in Goa, and Goan laws are different to Indian laws. So I started educating myself about divorce laws. What he, if he had to file a divorce against me, on what grounds would he be able to file, and how I could counter whatever he was filing, and what he could do. So I knew I was equipped with knowledge when the actual filing came up. I knew what my rights were, I knew what I could ask for, and I knew what I could get. So knowledge in this case is your best friend. The minute the threats come in, if there are physical threats, if there are verbal threats where the person is telling you that they are going to harm you, get help immediately. Don't wait for things to escalate. Do not wait. So just be safe, and your priority is your safety. Sometimes you just don't have the time to look at what money you have, but you just have to take that leap of faith. And trust me when I say this, help does come. I know it sounds really cheesy and very Hollywood type, but help does come. You just have to get out for your own safety. Don't stay in a toxic, negative situation just because there's no money. Get out. There will be something, there will be someone who will step forward and say, I know your situation, I know where you're coming from, and I will help. So help does come. Just don't stay. You don't have to stay and worsen your mental health and everything else that goes with it. So get out as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought the legal. It's funny because I actually had jotted down legal and then I didn't say it and you did. Yes, the legal part. Also, also, I had, remember, it kind of ties in. I'm so glad you brought that up because I had forgotten about it. It ties in with my situation when I went through my divorce, one of them, and I didn't have the money. At first, I hired like the cheapest lawyer I could get, but my ex was just dragging it and dragging it and dragging it. In 2 years, I had bills coming out of my everywhere. Um, I was just drowning in legal bills. And I just got so frustrated because it just kept on going. I changed lawyer. I went to the top lawyer and I said, I only had like the top lawyer had big retainer and I didn't have the money. So I paid for half an hour of the time. I said I saved up to for 1/2 hour, just a consultation, half hour. And I met with her, I explained the situation, and she helped me. I explained to her, I don't have the money, I can't afford you. I cannot afford you. And but I need this legal stuff to be over because be prepared. Be prepared. Going through separation is likely going to be extremely difficult. Just like Charmaine said, she was living on water. You reminded me that I was living on coffee from the office where I ended up getting my job just so that I could feed my daughter because there was, like I said, bills just were piled up and I was just drowning. So don't be afraid to talk to the top lawyer. You just never know, especially if it's someone who specializes in family law. They understand. They will find a way to help you. Like I ended up not paying more than I was paying my other lawyer before, and everything was resolved within 5 weeks after 2 years of dragging just because I swapped. So I think eventually saved myself a whole lot of money just by switching and just sharing my situation because I was not getting the right support from the lawyer that I had. I think she just was not experienced enough, the first one. So I'm not going to put a blame on on her. I think she just wasn't experienced enough. So, but yes, very good tips, Charmaine. And once again, as you hear both of us say, do not stay in an abusive relationship, whether it's money, whether it's whatever the reason. Find a way to get help. It is out there. It's not all paid. We can support you in any way we can. So reach out to us, to your local shelter, like I said before. And your mental health is important because here's the one thing. A lot of people think that, oh, it's just emotional abuse, doesn't affect anybody else. Well, it actually does. It not only affects your mental state, it affects your productivity. It affects your quality of life. You're not born to be a martyr. Let me tell you that. You are not born to be a martyr. You were born to shine. You were born to live a very happy, fulfilling life, not to be a martyr and not to be a victim. Okay, so own that. Your self-worth. You cannot be in a healthy relationship. You can never be loved the way you deserve to be loved until you learn to love yourself first to that degree. And I know, like Charmaine said, I used the word cheesy when you were talking about something else. And loving yourself doesn't mean, oh, look at me so pretty, or it's not about narcissistic love. It's about really caring about your mental health the way you would care about your physical aspect. It's about nurturing every part of you, your mental, your emotional, your physical, your financial, all of that. You taking care of yourself as if you were taking care of the person you love the most. That's what self-love is. And until you can do that, it's not really love. You don't have enough to give to somebody else. You have to, it's like you can't give from an empty cup, right? We've heard that expression before. So if your cup is not full, what you think is love is not, it's neediness. And that's a whole other topic on its own. And I keep saying that every video we say, oh, but that's a whole other topic on its own because these are, right? So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that because I can keep on rambling on. But you are worth more. Please, please, please. We do not need depression in this world. We do not need suicidal thoughts in this morning. We need you to shine and give. You're meant to make big positive impact in this world. And you can't do that if you are in an abusive situation. So that's my little preaching for the day. That's it. Charmaine, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yes, I do. One last tip. In case you have difficulty in getting a divorce lawyer or a lawyer to help you out with a divorce, check pro bono lawyers in your area because at least in my state, we do have pro bono lawyers. I'm pretty sure there will be pro bono lawyers across the world. I mean, every country should have them. There should be a way to get them. So if you cannot get a pro bono lawyer, contact your domestic violence call line or helpline or shelter, and maybe they will be able to provide a lawyer for you. But you don't need to feel overwhelmed that, oh my God, okay, I need to get this divorce, I need to file it, and how am I going to move forward? So there are definitely ways to figure it out. And if you need help, like Francesca said, please feel free to message or get in touch with us in any way, and we'll do whatever we can to help. For sure.
Yeah.
You're not alone. You don't have to feel alone.
No, because you're not alone. So my last words are for today are be smart, be wise, be safe.